I contemplated if I wanted to write out a full script so I knew exactly what I wanted to say, or if I just wanted to let things free flow and see what came to mind in the moment while I'm speaking. And I've thought a lot about everything so far, and I've reflected a lot, so I already have a lot of thoughts I want to discuss. But I feel like before the retreat, I would have said that let me write everything out. Let me write out a script. Let me have everything that I want to say word for word. But after this retreat and everything that I've learned, all the insights I've garnered, it only feels right to see what comes to me in the moment and let that energy flow. And I think that's also how you have that transfer of energy. That's when your realest words are spoken, when it's just in the moment. You have more power and energy and passion behind those words rather than just simply reading premeditated words that you had already written out beforehand. So for this men's retreat with Danny Miranda, I think we actually have to go all the way back to the start of the year. The reason why that is because I made the New Year's resolution to myself this year that I was going to dedicate each workout to someone. I thought that would be a fun challenge, fun resolution that would actually hold myself to throughout the year. It was a fun way of connecting and reconnecting with people, fun way of also keeping track of how many workouts that I'm doing this year. And as the year goes on, it obviously gets increasingly more challenging, or you're reaching out to different people that you really haven't talked to in a long time. So I think it's a good challenge that all people should do, whether it's with working out or some type of activity that they do on a frequent basis. And for me, I used social media as well, where it wasn't necessarily people that I knew in my everyday life throughout the course of my life, but also using social media for people that I've had conversations with, or have just messaged back and forth a little, or people that I just admire and love their work, and saying, hey, this is something that I'm doing and I want to gift you one of these workouts. And one of those people was Danny Miranda. And if you don't know who Danny Miranda is, he had a really, really great podcast. He still does. He doesn't do it as frequently anymore. He does more life coaching and retreats now rather than solely focusing on his podcast. But he had one of my favorite podcasts, interviewed a lot of incredible people. And he's definitely an inspiration for me for wanting to start a podcast. Just his researching process, the way he truly cared about his guests, asking great questions, seeing those guests' reactions. I was like, that looks awesome, and something that I definitely want to do as well, and something that was really calling to me. And that's a topic that we'll also get to later on in this conversation. So I messaged Danny saying, this was, I think, in October, saying, hey, I want to dedicate my workout to you. I forget what the exact number was, but I was like, workout number XYZ is going to you today. And he was like, oh, great. Really appreciate that. That's awesome. And he said, I also updated some stuff about the retreat. Give it another look. I had seen that he was marketing this retreat, I think a couple months back, but kind of just didn't move forward with it. Kind of just lost sight of it. But when he reintroduced it to me and it became top of mind, I was like, you know what? I should do this. It was in Austin, Texas, where I'm recording this right now. And I was always like, you know what? I would love to go to Austin and explore. Austin, Texas was always one of these places, honestly, for a long time now, that I always wanted to come to and explore the city, the people, and see if, who knows, maybe this would be a place that I would potentially want to move to. And I feel like I had a fear of coming because I really didn't know anyone. I'm saying this before I even knew about the retreat, and just in general of coming to Austin, especially for an extended stay, whether it be a couple weeks or whatever it would be, just not knowing anyone, being in a completely new environment. And I knew that getting out of your comfort zone is crucial, but there was that fear, and that's what was holding me back. But this retreat now, in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is the perfect thing for me to do to start this trip and build some momentum. Thought I'd be able to meet some great people, and then it would allow for me to have a great rest of the trip here as well, rather than just coming to Austin and right from the start being like, okay, like, let me go to the gym, let me work out and just get into my normal routine. It was great having this big event right at the start to kick things off. And so the retreat was from October 17th, Thursday, to October 20th, that Sunday. But the retreat really, for me, started in two different places. So the first place that it started was a couple weeks prior to the retreat starting. I had on Nick Sweeney to my podcast, and Nick is a breathwork performance coach, mind body coach, does incredible work, very important work in my eyes. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm coming to Austin in a couple weeks because he lives in Austin. And I said, I found you because of this guy, Danny Miranda, who posted a video of yours on his story. Nick had gone through a very similar healing process with physical injuries where it was a lot of breath work, mental work, similar to what I had done with my back injury. And before I could even ask him of saying, hey, would love to meet you in person, he just goes, yeah, I'm doing that retreat. And in my mind, I'm like, synergy. The stars are aligning for the kid. I was like, that is so sick, because there definitely was still that little bit of fear. I'm like, who's going to be at this thing? But just knowing that, okay, there's going to be a face there that I know and a person that would love to have a lot of conversations with, that was just a really cool feeling. So I already knew things were heading in the right direction a couple weeks before actually going on the retreat. And then the second place that the retreat felt like it really, really started was there was an intro call that Monday before the retreat started on Thursday, where just getting to know the other faces who would be there. Did a 5-minute meditation session, actually, which I'll get more into as well, because meditation was a big part of this retreat. And honestly, the energy that was just on that call was incredible. And I could feel it. Like, it felt like the retreat had already started. In those days leading up to me actually coming to Austin, I could definitely feel just a different vibe to me, which was an incredible feeling. And I consciously knew, I'm like, it was because of that intro call. So I was very excited to come to Austin for this retreat. And the other cool thing about it was I knew it was going to be a lot of personal development type stuff, knew it was probably going to be some meditation as well, but the specific agenda was not given to us beforehand. It was pretty much the reason why I was doing it was because, all right, I've seen the work of this guy, Danny Miranda, really like him, and I trust him. There was that trust that had been built from what I've seen him done in the past. And I was like, all right, let's do this. And I think it was great because one of the questions that was asked of us on that intro call was, what are you looking to get out of this? And my response was, I'm just curious. I have a curiosity for this. I don't have a goal. And I think that's such an important mindset to have for any work that we undertake or any project or honestly just life in general, just having a curiosity rather than an ambition or a goal for what you're trying to get out of. Because I think when you have a set goal or you have a set ambition for what you are trying to achieve, especially within something like this retreat, you consciously and subconsciously get into the framework of, okay, whatever comes my way, I am going to try to force it in the direction of achieving that goal. But for me, it was more so of just, let's see what happens. Let's see what I get out of this. And just having that open-mindedness and that free-flowing mindset for achieving whatever would come my way from this. And I think that mindset really, really benefited me throughout the retreat. And I think because of that mindset, I achieved so much more than I would have if I had a set goal going into it, which was a really, really cool feeling. I would say that there was one goal. It wasn't anything specific, but I know I had said before going into the retreat, I was like, I feel like I just have a bunch of wires tangled in my head right now that need to be untangled. Like a lot of good wires, like nothing bad, nothing damaging, like actually like really, really good stuff that was going on in my life, that is going on in my life. And I was like, I need to untangle all of these wires so that I can start being much more intentional with my actions and my thoughts and my way of living. And that happened very, very quickly. So that alone, I mean, this was a life-changing experience. So like I said, retreat started October 17th, that Thursday night. Did a meditation session, did some intro prompts within a talking group, had a great dinner. The entire retreat was with a private chef who she made some incredible food, some of the best food I've ever had. And what I found through food, actually, and this is really interesting because anybody who knows me knows that I'm incredibly regimented with my food. I mean, food is fuel for me. I eat the same things every single day. But what I found through that experience is that from the chef standpoint, food is creative expression. Food is nourishment. But food is also that transfer of energy as well. And that's something that I've become so keen on is people's energy and how you transfer energy. And I could see the passion that this chef had for her craft and this energy for her craft. And that was transferred through us with the food. It wasn't just tasting good, but it was nourishment, which made the entire retreat that much more special. So like I said, with the retreat, it was a lot of meditation, a lot of breath work. And I'd really never done breath work in this sense, like really, really intentional breath work. But I mean, it is a game changer. I've done it every single day since the retreat ended. And it doesn't take long. There's this guided breathwork session that we did that I've continued to do that's 8 minutes. And I do it in the middle of the day, almost as like a reset. And it truly, truly works. And what would happen was after the breathwork and meditation, there would be written prompts. So the way that I like to see it is that, all right, the breath work and the meditation is getting your mind in a good state of mind, in a clear state of mind. That's then allowing you to be more present and be more thoughtful with these written prompts about your life. And so, like I said, I'd really never done breath work before, but meditation had become a crucial part of my life. I didn't do it as frequently now, but it was a crucial part of my life with recovering, but more so healing from my back injury and that entire process. Meditation, or what I like to call it as talking with my brain or having solo therapy sessions, that played a crucial part. So it was cool being put back into that environment where those meditations were playing an active role. So getting into some of the written prompts, I wanted to share some thoughts and insights on those. So there were 3 big prompts that we did and that I have some notes on. So the first one is asking yourself the question, how can I step deeper into my truth? And I've got a page full of notes here. I'm not going to read it all off, but just a few that I think are interesting. One of them, continuing to strip that thin, translucent layer on the surface. You want to get to the point where that thin layer just isn't there and you're always your truest, most authentic self, where you don't have that shield or that mask up. And that's something that I've talked with other people about on my podcast. Just fully embodying who you are 100% of the time, where it doesn't even feel like you are consciously trying to embody yourself, but just that's your natural state of being and you're naturally in your truth. Another one, stop diluting myself and playing and talking small to make those around me more comfortable. Because I feel like there'd be times in my life where I'd be more at ease or more aware of trying to make others around me more comfortable if it meant that I wasn't being true to myself. I'd rather have everyone around me be at ease and me be at dis-ease because I didn't want to put others in an uncomfortable position or an uneasy position. A couple more here. Speaking of ease, being at ease with the unknown that my truth will bring. I think that's a really interesting one because you have to embrace the unknown, whatever it is you're doing in life. And I think when you're not having this conscious mindset of fully embracing who you are and embracing your truth, it becomes much easier just to accept the unknown because you're not thinking about it. And I think a good example of this is just like going through school. When you're in third grade, not just talking about truth, but just in general, when you're in third grade, you're not having the mindset of how am I going to finish third grade? How am I going to even get to fourth grade? How am I going to get to senior year of high school? You just kind of have the mindset of time is going to pass and I'm going to go down this path. And that's something that I've truly tried to embody definitely really recently, and something that I'm still working on, fully embracing my truth, but also embracing the unknown and just accepting that, hey, this is my truth and I'm just going to go down this path and I'm going to get there. And then the last one on this list I have for how can I step deeper into my truth, allowing for my truth to meet me where I am rather than always needing to push forward. I think we always feel like we need to be the ones in control. We need to be the ones in the driver's seat. We need to be constantly seeking this truth out, who we truly are. We constantly need to be exploring and on the move. And the other mindset that I'm trying to embody now is, well, if it's my truth, wouldn't the opposite also make sense? Isn't my truth trying to find me as much as I'm trying to find my truth? In fact, you could even make the case my truth is trying to find me, is trying to pin me down, is trying to have me see it, is trying to have me allow it into my life. It's trying to have it guide me through life more than I am trying to find my truth. And I think that's a really powerful mindset to have, where you don't constantly need to be making moves. Be where you are, be where your feet are, take actions where you are in the present moment, and allow that truth to find you as much as you were trying to find that truth. And this leads me to the next writing prompt that we had. And like I said, with all these writing prompts, we would do meditation or breath work beforehand. And one of the writing prompts that Danny Miranda had us do was imagining ourselves as our 100-year-old self, embodying that person and writing a letter to us today. An interesting thing that I'll note is that, and I feel like this is something that we all do as kids in school, when we have writing prompts, we look at other people and seeing how much they're writing, who's finished first, who's taking the longest. And I could see that within this prompt, this exercise, I was like, wow, there's people writing like really long letters to themselves. And I feel like I've always been a less is more approach, especially with my writing. I think that's more impactful. Being concise, I think, can be really helpful and beneficial. And so I really didn't go into specifics because Danny had guided us with saying, talk about your accomplishments, your life, family, etc. And I really didn't go into specifics of that. I kept it more vague, but I think it was, from my standpoint and knowing who I am as a person, I thought it was more impactful for me. So I'll read that letter, and it's not too long, like I said. Timmy, you were on the path all along. You've always been on the path. You just had to have the courage to walk down it. When you started to walk, you started embodying your power. Everything you wanted, you have. Everything you wanted to accomplish, you have done. Everything you've wanted to be, you've always been. Go for your walk. There's no need to run. Just keep walking, moving. Everything will illuminate along the path as you continue to take each step. Love you, buddy. And so, as you can see there, no specifics about accomplishments. I do talk about you've accomplished everything you wanted, but no specifics about that. But just having that sense of everything's going to be good, more than good. Everything's going to be special. And just allowing myself to still live in that present moment and not talking about specifics, because to an extent, that 100-year-old guy, he's still going to be talking, or he's still going to have the mindset of who I am today and using what I want to accomplish today as that framework. But as a 25-year-old today, who knows? 5 years from now, those goals could be completely different from what I'm thinking now, those accomplishments that I want to do now. So I wanted to allow for that variation in there, or allow for that letter to stand the test of time throughout my entire life, that I can look back on and see how it's always held true. And the last prompt, or the last exercise that we did, that I want to share about and was the most impactful and made the entire retreat so special for me, and honestly life-changing now. And the name of this exercise is called The Reason for Being. And like I said, with all of these, started out with breathwork and meditation, and then Danny Miranda, for this specific exercise, guided us by saying, visualize yourself as a kid back in the house you grew up in, going through all the different rooms, seeing where your mother is, seeing where your father is, being in your own specific bedroom. And then the written prompt was, and I'm going to read this because I want to get all the specifics, because there were 5 prompts. I'm going to talk about the 3 first prompts within the exercise. So the first prompt was, describe the top positive traits of your parents. Just one word. What are the top positive traits of your parents? Prompt 2 was, what are the negative traits of your parents? And then we write all those out. And then after we have all the answers of those, he explains the deeper meaning behind that. And he says, our answers to those, what that represents, is the traits you unconsciously model and adopted from your parents, both the positive and the negative. And I'm like, yeah, that's definitely true. I felt like I embody all the positive traits of my parents, and then there were a few on there of negatives that I embodied. The 2 biggest ones, overthinker and anxious. I am a massive overthinker. I overanalyze the crap out of stuff, and it is definitely something that I struggle with and something that I'm trying to get a handle on. And then the third prompt within this reason for being exercise, which was the most profound and impactful thing for me throughout this entire retreat, and I visibly showed it, and everyone knew that it was the most impactful for me. So this third prompt, it says, the yearning, what I needed the most as a child but didn't get. And what I wrote, and just to repeat it word for word, because I want to say exactly what in the moment I had written down, I said, I needed a voice. I needed to speak. I needed to have an opinion. I feel like I really only found my voice 3 years ago. Quietness was always my answer rather than speaking. And what this represents, because like I said, we write this down and then Danny would tell us, okay, this is what that deeper significance means. The emotional void you had as a child that you look to fill as an adult. It's your underlying motive for everything you look for in your life, career, relationships, etc. It's the unmet need that you subconsciously look to fulfill. And as he's reading that out, my mind just exploded. Like, eyes just wide open. And I'm like, oh my gosh. That's why I started a podcast. I didn't know it. It was staring me right in my eyes, but I couldn't see it. And I was just like, boom. That's why I started a podcast. My voice. For my entire life, or for the majority of my life, like I said, quietness was always my answer. And I think that was both consciously and subconsciously where I would consciously be aware of, okay, I'm not going to use my voice in certain environments. But then also in other environments where I was just very shy, very introverted, and was scared to use my voice. And that's what I try to do as an adult now. And that's why what I try to give to other people, their voice. It's so funny because something that I always talk about, especially with my mom, is how random people just open up to me out of the blue about very deep things about themselves and about their life. And I understood that. That was part of my reasoning for wanting to start a podcast. I was like, I'm having these really interesting conversations, or I'm giving people the space, or they feel like they're comfortable around me to have the space to talk about these types of things. And I'm like, that type of skill or that type of energy I think would definitely help me as a podcast host. I never understood why people would open up to me until now. I was giving people a voice because I didn't have one, because I didn't use my voice. I wanted people to feel the power of having their voice and how incredible that could be, because I didn't do that for most of my life. And this also goes back to my back injury as well, because with TMS, one of the psychological things that they say about the type of people who deal with TMS are very intense people. And I am a very intense person, especially internally. Whether it's with working out, work in general, I'm just a very intense person. And a key component to my healing process and my therapy process with that was writing and speaking out that writing. And then that led me to making motivational videos on Instagram where it would just be me talking to my camera. And it was a very healing, cathartic process because I needed to use my voice. That's how I got my intensity out. I had finally was like, I need to release this intensity. I had this bottle up intensity for such a large amount of my life that speaking and using my voice was that release of intensity. And that's why I started a podcast as well, I guess. And I never like truly knew that deeper reasoning behind it. I would always ask myself questions like, why does making this podcast feel so good? Why do having these conversations feel so good? It's because I'm filling that void now that I had as a kid with not using my voice. So this entire experience with this exercise just completely blew the doors off of me, where I was like, whoa, having this type of conscious knowledge of why you do something so much on a deep, deep level is an incredible feeling. And it will allow me to be so much more intentional with this podcast and the work behind it and understanding the motivation behind it. And just recently, I had an intro call with a guest that I'm going to have on, and he's had a fair bit of media coverage in the past. And he asked me, what we wanted to talk about or what I wanted to talk about with him, the intentions behind the podcast. And I could tell he just like totally relaxed after. And he goes, oh, that sounds awesome. This means the world to me. And I had such a greater appreciation for those words that he said in that entire moment, such a little moment, but so much energy in that moment, because I had the conscious understanding of I'm giving this guy a voice. I'm giving this guy the space to use his voice the way that he wants to. And that's so cool because podcasting has become one of those things that, everyone's got a podcast, everyone's doing this. And it's like, yes, that is true to a certain extent, but like it's such a deeper reasoning behind it for me. I knew that going in, but now just consciously and intentionally knowing it as well. Yes, there's external results that I want to create with this thing, but the only reason why I want to create those external results is so that it allows this internal fulfillment and this reason for being to flourish that much more. And I can't thank Danny Miranda and that entire experience enough, because I wouldn't have ever had that moment. And like I said, those wires started to untangle after that. And I know because of this retreat, I'm going to get into such special work with other stuff, more specific to things with my own healing journey with my back and dealing with chronic pain. I don't know all the specifics of that yet. I know the outline for what that work will look like and the intentions behind that work. And I have such confidence. I know that that type of work will be so special, so purposeful. But most importantly, I know that that work can change lives and a ton of lives. And it can change the way people view themselves and the relationship with themselves. And like I said, that's what this show is all about. The relationship with oneself is the most important to develop, but the easiest to neglect. And I know I can give people the tools, especially the ones who are dealing with chronic pain. I know I can give them the tools to develop that relationship. So I could not recommend not just doing a retreat with Danny Miranda, but just retreats in general. A massive part of the retreat as well, no phones. It's incredible how much time can slow down if you don't have your phone. It's incredible how much time you actually have in a day if you don't have a phone, and how much you can accomplish and how good you can feel. Because that first day and a half after the retreat where I had my phone again, my head just felt like it was going to combust. But I definitely have become more intentional with using my phone, because that's definitely a thing that I still struggle with a lot. And just people in general, just constant consumption. But yeah, retreats. Highly recommend either doing it with Danny Miranda or just, like I said, a retreat in general. I think it also becomes a great way to explore new parts of the country. Search up retreats that you want to do, or search up in a city you would want to explore. Look up a retreat that is going on there and use that as the pillar to start off your trip. And I know a lot of people who did this retreat with me feel the same way. The retreat was from Thursday to Sunday, but the effects of the retreat carried over after the retreat ended. And it will continue to carry over for weeks on end, months on end, years on end, your entire life. And I knew that if I were to fly back home, it would almost be like a shock to my system. So I was so grateful that I was able to stay in Austin, Texas for a couple weeks after, continue to connect with people who were local to Austin who did the retreat, but also now connecting with so many other incredible people. And this is such an incredible city with such incredible energy, and a place I think that I'm probably going to call home in the not too distant future. So I think the moral of the story from everything I've learned here: dedicate your workouts to someone. Send messages to people. You never know what can happen. The energy that can be created, the magic that can be created. If I didn't send that workout message to Danny, I probably wouldn't have come on the retreat. It wouldn't have been top of mind, and I wouldn't have had that push to actually do it. So just start talking with people. Start sending messages to people, whether you know them or not. Start dedicating workouts. Start telling people you love the work that they do. You never know what can happen. So with that, I will see you in the next episode. Keep out working.